Okay guys, welcome back. This is the second video in a series of replacing bearings on this pump that we disassembled. In the previous video, we had pulled apart the pump. We'd taken the pump out of our pedestal, or the bearing and the shaft out of the pedestal. We also have the stationary gland right here. For this video, we're going to show you how to remove this bearing. Okay. So one of the two pullers that I have that'll do 90% of all of my bearings, whether it's a motor, a pump shaft, motor shaft. In fact, most of my centrifugals, I use two different bearing pullers. The Protosat, I think most everybody has, very common puller. If you don't know the part number, I have it on that cheat sheet that I gave out to you guys. One other puller that I've used pretty often is my 3-jaw OTC puller. In fact, it's a OTC 1042. You know, the price of these have actually gone down. You can get this for under 200 bucks. Okay. Set that over here. All right, let's go ahead and see if we can pull this bearing. So there's a couple of ways you can pull a bearing. You can pull it on the outer race, and once we've pulled it on the outer race, we've destroyed the bearing. If it's a bearing you want to keep, they make another bearing puller that will clamp around the back and pull from the inner race. Okay, if you pull from the inner race, you're not going to do any damage to the bearing. So let's get our bearing puller set up. Like we need a couple of different jaws. Extend this out a little further. There we go, just about set up. Come on. Okay, we got it tight. See if I have the right. I've taken this bearing off, I don't know, probably 20 times. The interference fit on it is starting to go away. When I talk about interference fit, it's the fit between the inner race and the shaft. The bearing itself, the inner race of the bearing, is about 2 thousandths smaller than the shaft it fits over. That's why it's stuck on here. Oh, let's see if this will get it. Right now, my okay. I don't use these. This is a much easier way of doing it. And once it starts moving, I don't stop. I just let it go. Okay? Best tool in town. That bearing is now destroyed. Comes right off. So we're going to put that bearing back on. When you're prepping this, you want to get everything clean. You this surface right here, like I said, is about 2/1000ths larger. If you were to measure this would be 2/1000ths larger than this inner race. Okay, this inner race is smaller than here. It won't go back on. We're going to have to heat this up, expand it, and it'll go on. So you don't want to lose this fit, okay? You don't want to sand this down. Never use sandcloth to sand this down, or you're going to lose material, and then it's going to be wobbly, okay? If it does get wobbly, there is a solution. They sell, Loctite makes a retaining compound. They make quite a few retaining compounds, and it's to retain. It's a glue or a not an epoxy, but it'll lock this inner race onto here. If we've lost our clearances, okay, they can make up that gap. Put a little glue on there, put it on, and it'll stick. So we don't want to lose that metal that's on there. So, like I said, don't use sandcloth to sand those, to clean them up. We want them clean. Do not use sandcloth, okay? But wait a minute, I'm using sandcloth. So the truth is, a lot of times I'm working on a pump, and you know, I could be 20 minutes, half hour from my truck, and I don't want to go down and get emery cloth. You know, maybe Scotch-Brite, which would be better on here. You just want to kind of get it clean. I have used sandcloth, but I'm really careful with it, okay? This one has got a little bit of rust on it. I've done this quite a few times, but if you just give it a little bit of like this, okay, it'll be okay. You saw how that bearing came off. It was tight enough to be functional. And I've done this little sand thing like 20 times. I've showed everybody this little procedure and why are you using sandcloth? Well, just be real careful, okay? Little bit, and it's good. I'm a real fan of the contact cleaner, so everything I do is clean, double extra clean. So we're gonna make sure we get this nice and clean. I'm kind of a fan of this WD-40, okay, contact cleaner. I'm going to tell you, the way I buy contact cleaner is the good contact cleaner as opposed to the bad contact. I mean, they've got $30 contact cleaner out there. You spray it on your hand and it leaves a film. I'll tell you, when I find a good contact, it does this. Okay, that's a good contact cleaner. So I don't have to go back and clean off the contact cleaner from the contact cleaner. There we go. We're set up with a clean bearing, ready to go. I'm gonna heat a bearing up, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the bearing. So I hope this works. I haven't tried this yet. I don't know if that one's too bright. Just turn that one off. So this, beautiful. It's gonna work. I want to put my bearing in vertical like this. Okay. That one doesn't work. That one doesn't work. Okay, that's the one let's see. Get this a little closer to you. All right. When I heat this bearing up, I'm going to heat it to what I call spit sizzle. I'm going to psst, and it'll sizzle, so which makes it about 220 degrees. when I put the bearing on, okay, I put it on, I don't hold it like this and try to force it on. It'll get stuck every time. And once it gets stuck, you're done. Okay? So I'm gonna sit it down here. I'm gonna real carefully find its home and let it fall on. Okay? As soon as I start to press it on, I'm gonna cock it every time. Hold your hands like this in your fingers. Find its little happy home and it'll fall on. Okay? So let's go ahead and heat this. I'm gonna clean the inside. I've found over the years a little technique that I use to heat these bearings up. Let me go grab a lighter here real quick. Okay. I've got to heat this inside race up with heat, and I've got some complaints from people that say never use a torch to heat up a bearing. I've done it for years. I'm pretty good with it. I can heat up bearings with rubber seals on them and I don't burn the rubber. This one's been heated up many times and I've never burnt it, okay? And my eyesight's not that good. So it takes a little practice. Everybody says don't heat it with a torch. And no one's been able to tell me why. Nobody seems to know. There is a possibility when heating it up with a torch that you, I don't know, heat it up too fast, which can, it's possible to heat it up too fast. So here's the scenario of heating it up too fast. I've got a friend that lives in the Denver area. She's a mechanic. In fact, I just got off the phone with her, and I know she's going to be watching this video, so a shout out to my friend in Denver. If she's in the winter, she's got this bearing sitting in her truck, okay, and it's 0 outside and snowing. This bearing is cold, and she immediately takes it out and heats it up. Well, the outside is cold, the inside is cold. We heat the inside up, get it hot. It's a possibility that the inside will get so large that it squeezes the balls inside the bearing. You got a cold outside, and it just the inside swells up and it squeezes the balls that are inside here. Okay. You got this gets larger faster than this does. Outer race. So I've always been in a habit of, as soon as I put these on, I roll it. Okay. Does it roll freely? Is it tight? But if you were to get you really should use either maybe a toaster oven. You can put it in the toaster oven, put it for about 220. I used to do that. On larger bearings, I will absolutely do that. But these little small bearings, yeah, you can heat them up real quick. They'll go right on. Or they've got those bearing cones. Well, that still just heats the inner race, but it does that a little bit slower, and the whole bearing gets hot. There's a few different bearing heaters, but I'll use a torch. So, oh, you know what? Let me go back when I was sanding this. I'll tell you a story. I was on a job site, and I was doing my little sand real quick, and the building engineer came up and he says, "Hey, what are you doing? You're not supposed to sand that with sandcloth." I know. So I did get caught doing that. You're supposed to use emery cloth, maybe 800, 600, or Scotch-Brite. So just be careful when you do it, because some of these engineers, a few of them maybe, are knowledgeable in that. So the way I heat this up is it took me, the last half of my career, I get a couple of these stuck. You know, once they're stuck, either you got to get the right puller, like I said, to pull it from the back, or you pound it off. Or you pull it off that other way. Well, now you've destroyed the bearing, and you're going to have to put another bearing in. Another reason why I always will, if I'm purchasing parts for a pump, I'll get 2 bearings. I'll always have a backup on the side. If I drop this, I got to throw it away. Okay? So have a spare bearing with you. I always had a box, a toolbox full of bearings. So what I do is I'll come up, I'll heat this inner race, get it hot. I'll walk away. Okay? I'll let the thing grow. Give it a chance to grow. Okay? Walk away. I know if you sit there and watch it, you know what seems like 5 minutes will be 60 seconds. So I'll walk away from it. Just let it grow. Come back, hit it again, and they'll fall right on. So let's go ahead and heat this bearing up. See if we can get it to go on the first time. So I'll tell you, I've had a couple of my students put this on themselves, and they've got it stuck. You know, they didn't do they didn't do it like I said. Watch. So, show you what I'm doing here. I'm gonna kind of work my feet around. My tip is right on it. I can control it a little better with I put my torch right on it. Kind of at an angle, and I can keep my flame going and not knock my flame out. And I don't hit the rubber seal on there. Okay, now at that point, I'll give it a break, and like I said, we'll walk away for 5 minutes. Let me check my time on here. Okay, I got 17 minutes into this. So because of the constraints with my video, I'm gonna heat it up and go ahead and put it on. So I've got my gloves ready. We'll go ahead and heat it, and we'll get it to a point where I'll take a little bit of spit and I'll hit it on there and it'll sizzle. Let's go ahead and do it. My outer race isn't, I can touch that. I can't touch that inner race. I'm going to say I can touch up to about 150. I'm going to say that's about 150. If it's 160, it's too hot for me to touch. I got a little ways to go. I'm going to try to heat it up fast. Okay. See if you can hear this. Okay. Sizzled on my finger. If it's windy, you want to go pretty quick. This thing will cool off. Okay. This one, you got to remember, this one actually has the ring off. So that needs to go on the outside. So I hold it like this and see if we can just let it drop. Find its home. Okay. Normally they just fall right on. I wanted to make sure that went on. I didn't want to have to do that again. So there you go. That thing, you probably can't pull it off right now. So I'd love to hear that sound when it hits the back. We know it hit. We're going to have to let that cool, and it looks good. Well, you'll have to do the other side. We're not going to do that. The next video, we'll pull this brass sleeve off. Okay?